would have heard a little earlier that former President Jacob Zuma is going to lay a criminal complaint against prosecutor Billy Downer today. Why? He is accusing Downer of leaking information about his health. He will also lodge a complaint of prosecutorial misconduct with Judge Piet Koen. The judge is still deciding if Downer should be recused from the arms deal corruption trial. Zuma arguing the prosecutor does not have the legal title to try him. Criminal law expert William Booth, morning. It seems the Jacob Zuma Foundation, the former president, wanting to take on everybody in this court case. So before we talk about Judge Piet Koen, the alleged leaking of these documents, obviously right now we don't know if it's happened or if it hasn't. What does this mean legally ahead of the corruption trial resuming?
Good morning, Gareth. The National Prosecuting Authorities Act governs the conduct of all prosecutors in this country. And it seems, from what I understand and what's been presented in the news, that the Zuma Foundation and or Mr. Zuma are going to lay a criminal complaint sometime today in terms of Section 41(6) of the National Prosecuting Authorities Act. That briefly says that no one is allowed to kind of disclose information which is in the possession of the prosecuting authorities without the permission of the National Director of Prosecutions or any document that may be in their possession. But the section is also a little bit confusing because later on in that same section, it indicates that that information could be disclosed if it's in the performance of the duties of, let's say, a prosecutor. The Section 41(7) deals with the penalties that can be imposed. So it's a section that I believe has not been used very often, and it'll be interesting to see, in fact, how it's interpreted. But I think it's pretty much premature. One would, I believe, have waited to see what Judge Koen has to say about Zuma's application for the recusal of the prosecutor first, and then to have made a decision whether or not there's any contravention of the National Prosecuting Authorities Act. So it's all kind of, and that judgment is due, I believe, on the 26th of October. So they should have waited to see what Judge Koen has to say about the application to have Mr. Downer removed as a prosecutor on the case. Depending on the ruling, then have made a decision.
Do you imagine then, William, if this has not been resolved by the time we're back in court, whether the former president is present in court or not, is this one of those situations again where we're going to see another delay in this corruption trial? Is this something that could take up the entire day in court, or could this be handled quite quickly as an administrative issue?
Well, look, I'm a little bit, and I think everybody's a little bit confused as to what exactly is going to happen insofar as Zuma is concerned. Is he going to lay this criminal complaint today? Is it going to then be dealt with in court? It was dealt with previously in court. So, as I'm saying, they should, before making any decision, and I'm not saying there's any contravention of any section of the Prosecuting Authorities Act at all, because that section, in my mind, seems very, very confusing indeed. And again, it depends on the facts that that come out, and it depends on what Zuma may say in any complaint that he lays to the police or to the prosecuting authorities with regard to Mr. Downer's alleged conduct. So, again, we have to wait, I believe, and see what the ruling is of Judge Koen on the 26th of October before any steps are taken. But, again, this case is going on and on and on. Every time there seems to be a different angle. There's been a change of lawyers. Then there's been this application to have the prosecutor removed. I don't believe there really is much basis for that, but let's see what Judge Koen has to say. So, the longer it goes on, the more problematic it is insofar as witnesses coming to court, remembering what's happened in the past. So, is this not a ploy to kind of delay things until everybody's really forgotten about what the case is about?
William, just perhaps a last question to you, if I may. I just want to talk about Judge Pitkun for a moment. It seems like his to-do list when he walks into court is getting longer and longer. We have to deal with prosecutorial misconduct. So it's this complaint being laid against the lead prosecutor and so on and so forth. At what point, as you mentioned, there's ongoing and repeated delays. At what point does Judge Pitkun put his foot down, if you want to go, okay, no more delays, no changes of lawyers, no more new angles? I'm asking for someone who doesn't have a legal background. Do we ever get to a point where he goes, this is it, and no further?
Well, absolutely. And again, his ruling is with regard to the application to remove the prosecutor from the case. So, he can make comments about whether or not there is some form of misconduct, but he's not the person to whom the complaint should be laid. If it's to the police, alleged criminal complaint, or to the prosecuting authorities in respect of alleged misconduct, he does have the ability to say, so far, no further. In terms of the Criminal Procedure Act, there are provisions that he can invoke in respect of the delay. It deals with unreasonable delay in criminal cases. This case has gone beyond unreasonable. So, to answer your question, yes, he can. He can invoke Section 342A of the Criminal Procedure Act, which stipulates with regard to having a matter concluded, and he can lay down certain requirements. And if they're not complied with, essentially he could carry on with the case, whether Zuma is ready or not, because this is not only delaying the prosecution, it's delaying the situation for the co-accused in this matter.
Well, William Booth, always such a pleasure speaking to you. Hopefully we speak again. Criminal law expert William Booth speaking to us ahead of what we understand is going to be a criminal complaint laid by Jacob Zuma against the lead prosecutor in his corruption trial. That's Billy Downer. Of course, we understand the complaint is circled around the leaking of information about the former president's health. We'll keep an eye on that story for you throughout the day.